6 months after the grandfather's death, Richard made his move against us. He filed a legal challenge to the will in court with his lawyers. He claimed our marriage was fraudulent from the very beginning of it all. He had evidence, he said, proof that we barely knew each other before, proof that I was Daniel's maid, proof of the timing of everything suspicious. "This is it," Daniel said, reading the court papers with a grim face. "We have to go to court and defend our marriage in front of everyone." "I'm scared," I admitted, my hands shaking as I held the papers tight. "What if they don't believe us? What if we lose everything you worked for?" Daniel took my face in his hands, looking at me with steady eyes. "Listen to me, Sofia," he said, his voice strong and sure and calm. "I don't care about the company or the money or anything else anymore. The only thing I care about losing is you. That's all that matters. If we lose in court, we'll start over together, build something new. As long as I have you, I have everything I need in this world." I started crying because his words were so beautiful and honest and real. "I love you," I said, and I meant it with my whole heart. "I love you too," he said, kissing me softly and gently on my lips. "Whatever happens, we face it together, as a real team, as real partners." Part 9. The Trial. The court date came too fast, only 3 weeks after Richard filed his case. We had to hire lawyers, expensive lawyers who asked us many difficult questions. They needed to know everything, the whole truth from the very beginning of it. So we told them. We told them about the contract and the money. We told them about the fake marriage to make the grandfather happy before dying. We told them how it became real, how we fell in love unexpectedly. Our lawyer, Mrs. Chen, was a smart woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "This is difficult," she said honestly, not lying to make us feel better. "Richard has a strong case because the marriage started as a fraud, essentially. But we have something stronger. We have the truth of your real love. We need to show the court that what started fake became completely real." The trial began on a cold Monday morning in a big courtroom downtown. The room was full of people, reporters, lawyers, and curious strangers watching us. Richard sat on one side with his lawyers, smiling confidently and smugly mean. We sat on the other side, holding hands tightly under the table together. Richard's lawyer went first, presenting all his evidence against us in court. He showed photos of me cleaning Daniel's house in my maid uniform before. He showed my employment records, proving I worked for Daniel for 2 years. He showed the timeline, how we got married just weeks before grandfather died. He made it sound dirty and planned and cold and calculated completely wrong. "This was a scheme," Richard's lawyer said dramatically to the judge and jury. "A scheme to steal a dying man's fortune by faking a marriage completely. Daniel Cross hired his maid to play his wife for money. Pure fraud. He deceived his grandfather in his final days for personal greedy gain only." I felt sick listening to him twist everything into something ugly and false. But technically, he wasn't completely wrong about how it started at first, initially. Then it was our turn, and Mrs. Chen stood up confidently and strong. "Yes, Daniel and Sofia's relationship began unconventionally," she admitted honestly to everyone. "But unconventional doesn't mean fake, and unusual doesn't mean fraudulent at all. What started as an arrangement became something neither of them expected to happen. They fell in love, real love, the kind that changes people forever deeply." She called our first witness, the nurse who took care of the grandfather. "Did you see Daniel and Sofia together often?" Mrs. Chen asked her gently. "Yes, 3 or 4 times a week for months," the nurse answered clearly. "And what did you observe about their relationship over that time period?" The nurse smiled softly, remembering those days with the old man fondly. At first, they seemed a little awkward, like they were learning each other. But as the weeks passed, I saw real affection grow between them naturally. The way Daniel looked at Sofia changed, became softer, more loving and caring. The way Sofia touched Daniel's hand became natural, not forced or fake-looking. By the end, I believed completely that they truly loved each other deeply. Next, Mrs. Chen called my mother to the stand as a witness. My mother walked slowly to the front, looking nervous but determined and strong. "Mrs. Torres, when did you first learn about your daughter's marriage?" Mrs. Chen asked. "She called me the night it happened, said she got a promotion," my mother said. "Later she told me the truth, that she married her employer for money." Richard's lawyer smiled, thinking this would help his case against us badly. "But then," my mother continued, looking at me with love in her eyes, "I saw them together, and I knew something had changed between them completely. My daughter glows when she talks about Daniel, like I did with her father. She loves him truly, not for his money but for his heart and soul. And he loves her the same way. I see it clear as day." My mother started crying, and I was crying too, and so were some jurors. Finally, Mrs. Chen called Daniel to the stand to testify for himself honestly. He looked nervous but walked to the front with his head held high. "Mr. Cross, did you hire Sofia Torres to pretend to be your wife?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel said clearly, not hiding the truth from anyone in the room. "Why did you do that?" Mrs. Chen asked, as we had practiced before. "Because I was desperate," Daniel said, his voice honest and raw with emotion. "My grandfather was dying, and his one wish was to see me happy. I work all the time. I have no social life, no real relationships at all. I couldn't find a real wife in time, so I made a business deal. It was wrong. I know that now, but I did it anyway, selfishly." "And what happened after you married Sofia?" Mrs. Chen asked him gently now. Daniel looked at me, and our eyes met across the crowded courtroom. "I fell in love with her," he said simply, his voice breaking with feeling. "I didn't plan to, I didn't want to, but I couldn't help it at all. She made me laugh for the first time in years, made me feel alive. She saw me, not my money or my company, but me, the real me. She's kind and strong and beautiful, inside and out, completely through and through. What started as a lie became the most real thing in my life. I love her more than anything, more than the company, more than money. I don't care if I lose everything today as long as I don't lose her." The courtroom was completely silent, everyone listening to his words carefully now. "If you lose the company, what will you do?" Mrs. Chen asked him finally. "Start over," Daniel said without hesitation at all, sure and strong and clear. "Find a regular job, live in a small house, build a simple life. As long as Sofia is with me, I have everything I need already." Richard's lawyer tried to tear Daniel apart with hard questions after that testimony. "Isn't it convenient that you fell in love after signing the contract?" he asked meanly. "It wasn't convenient. It was unexpected and complicated," Daniel answered honestly back. "How can anyone believe this isn't just an act to keep the money?" "Because I'm willing to give up the money," Daniel said, looking at Richard directly. Right now, today, I'll walk away from everything if that proves my love. I'll sign over the company to Richard, keep nothing for myself at all. As long as I have Sofia, I don't need anything else in this world. The courtroom erupted in whispers and shocked gasps from everyone watching this. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order and silence in the court immediately. Part 10. The verdict the jury left to make their decision, and we had to wait. We sat in a small room, holding hands, not talking, just being together. Did you mean what you said? I asked Daniel quietly after some minutes. About giving up everything for me, about starting over with nothing? Every word, he said, kissing my hand softly and gently with his lips. You're worth more than any company or fortune could ever be to me. I laid my head on his shoulder, and we waited together in silence. 2 hours passed, the longest 2 hours of my entire whole life. Finally, a court officer came and told us the jury was ready now. We walked back into the courtroom, my legs shaking with every step forward. The jury sat in their box, their faces serious and impossible to read. The judge looked at the papers in front of him for a moment. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked in his deep voice. We have, Your Honor, the jury foreman said, standing up slowly and formally. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might explode from my chest. Daniel squeezed my hand so tight it almost hurt, but I didn't care. In the matter of cross versus cross, the foreman began reading from paper. We find that while the marriage began as a contractual arrangement for money, the evidence shows that genuine love and affection developed over time between them. We find that Daniel Cross and Sofia Cross are in a real marriage. We find in favor of Daniel Cross, the marriage is valid and legally binding. The courtroom exploded with noise, people talking and gasping, and some even clapping. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but sit there frozen still. We won. We actually won. The jury believed us and our love story. Daniel pulled me into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. We won, he whispered into my hair, his voice shaking with relief and happiness. We won, Sofia. They believed us. They believed our love is real. I was crying so hard I couldn't speak any words at all out loud. Happy tears, relief tears, grateful tears, all mixed together, flowing down my face. Richard stood up, his face red with anger and defeat and bitterness completely. This isn't over, he shouted across the courtroom at us, both standing together. I'll appeal. I'll fight this. I'll prove you're both liars and frauds. The judge banged his gavel hard, the sound echoing through the big room. Mr. Cross, control yourself or I'll hold you in contempt of court, he warned. This case is closed. The jury has spoken their final decision clearly today. Richard stormed out of the courtroom, slamming the door behind him loudly hard. But I didn't care about him anymore, didn't care about his anger or threats. We had won, not just the company, but something much more important than that. We had won the right to be together, to love each other freely and openly. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us with cameras and microphones and questions. Mr. Cross, how do you feel about winning the case today? One reporter asked. Daniel looked at me and smiled, really smiled, big and genuine and happy. I feel like the luckiest man in the world, he said, pulling me close. Not because I kept the company, but because I get to keep her. Sofia is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. She taught me that love is more valuable than any amount of money. She taught me how to live, not just work and exist day by day. I would give up everything for her, and I mean that with all my heart. The reporters loved it, cameras flashing and recording every word he said clearly. But I only saw Daniel, only heard his voice, only felt his love. Part 11. 1 year later, a year passed, the full year required by the grandfather's will for us. But nothing changed for us because our love was already real and deep. We renewed our vows in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. This time, it wasn't for a dying grandfather or for money or anything else. This time, it was just for us, for our love, for our future together. My mother was there, healthy and strong, crying happy tears of joy. Daniel's business partners were there, people who had become our friends over time. Even the nurse who cared for the grandfather came, smiling and wiping her eyes. I knew it was real, she whispered to me before the ceremony started again. I saw it in your eyes, both of you, that love can't be faked. Daniel sold half of the company and donated the money to charity foundations. My grandfather was right, he said when he made the announcement to everyone. Money means nothing without love, without family, without purpose and giving back to others. This is what he would have wanted, helping people, making a difference in the world. We started a foundation in the grandfather's name for sick children and families. My mother helped run it, finally having a purpose that made her happy. I went back to school, studying nursing like I always dreamed of doing. Daniel cut his work hours, coming home every day at 5 o'clock sharp. We had dinner together every single night, talking and laughing and living our lives. We traveled. We explored. We did all the things he never had time for before. Life wasn't perfect. We had fights and disagreements like all couples do sometimes. But we loved each other through everything, choosing each other every single day, always. One evening, we sat in the garden that the grandfather had loved so much. The roses were blooming, red and pink and white, beautiful and fragrant and alive. Do you ever regret it? I asked Daniel, holding his hand in mine gently. Regret what? He asked, looking at me with those dark eyes I loved so much. Hiring your maid to be your fake wife, I said, smiling at the memory. That crazy plan that could have gone so wrong in many different ways possible. Daniel laughed. That real laugh I had grown to love more than anything else. That was the best business decision I ever made in my entire life, he said. I hired a maid and got a wife, a partner, a best friend. I got someone who sees me, knows me, loves me for who I am. I got you, Sofia, and you're worth more than any company or fortune. He pulled a small box from his pocket, surprising me completely with it suddenly. What's this? I asked, confused because we were already married to each other. Open it, he said, smiling that secret smile he had sometimes with me only. Inside was a new ring, more beautiful than the first one he gave me. The first ring was for a contract, for a fake marriage that meant nothing, he said. This ring is for forever, for the real marriage we built together with love. This ring means I choose you every day for the rest of my life. I was crying again, happy tears that seemed to come so easily now always. He slipped the new ring on my finger, replacing the old one carefully and slowly. I love you, Daniel, I said, my voice thick with emotion and feeling and happiness. I love you, Sofia, he said, and he kissed me under the blooming roses. Epilogue. 5 years later. 5 years after that trial, our life was more beautiful than I ever imagined. We had 2 children now, a boy and a girl, both with Daniel's dark eyes. They played in the same garden where their great-grandfather planted roses long ago. The company was thriving, but it wasn't Daniel's whole life anymore at all. His life was us, his family, the love we built together every single day. I worked as a nurse at the children's hospital we helped build with donations. Every day I helped sick children and their families, giving them hope and care. My mother lived in a small house near us, healthy and happy and surrounded by grandchildren. She told everyone the story of how her daughter married her boss for love. She left out the part about the contract, about the money, about the lie, because in the end that part didn't matter anymore to anyone who knew us. What mattered was the love that grew from an impossible and crazy situation. What mattered was 2 people who found each other when they weren't looking. What mattered was choosing love over money, over fear, over everything else always. Sometimes late at night, Daniel and I talked about those early days together, about the storm when he sat in my room and opened his heart slowly, about the grandfather who believed in our love even when it was fake, about the trial where we almost lost everything that mattered to us both. "Do you think your grandfather knew?" I asked Daniel one night in bed together. "Knew what?" Daniel asked, pulling me closer to him in the dark room quietly. "That our marriage started as fake? That it was all planned for him?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the question I asked. "I think he knew something wasn't quite right at the very beginning," he said. "He was a smart man. He built an empire from nothing after all. But I also think he saw something real between us before we did. He saw the potential for love, the possibility of something beautiful and true. That's why he changed the will to 1 year, not 3 months. He gave us time to figure out what we were too blind to see." I had never thought about it that way before, but it made sense now. The grandfather was wise. He saw things others couldn't see at all clearly. "He would be happy now," I said, thinking of the old kind man. "Seeing us like this, really happy, really in love, really a family together." "Yes," Daniel agreed, kissing the top of my head softly and gently always. He would say he told us so, that love is what matters most. The next morning, we took the children to visit the grandfather's grave site. It was a beautiful spot under a big oak tree in the peaceful cemetery. We brought fresh roses from our garden, the ones we took care of carefully. The children placed the flowers on the grave, their small hands so gentle and careful. "Who is he, Mama?" our daughter Emma asked, looking at the gravestone curiously. "He was your daddy's grandfather," I explained, kneeling down beside her small body. "He was a very wise and kind man who loved your daddy very much. He's the reason Mama and Daddy fell in love," Daniel added, picking up our son. "Really?" Emma asked, her eyes wide with wonder and interest and curiosity always. "Really," I said, smiling at Daniel over our children's heads with knowing looks. "He taught us that love is the most important thing in the whole world. More important than money, more important than work, more important than anything else. And that sometimes love comes when you least expect it to happen at all." That afternoon, we went back home and sat in the garden together as family. The children ran around chasing butterflies and laughing in the warm sunshine bright. Daniel and I sat on the bench, watching them with full hearts and happy smiles. "I was his maid, and now I'm his wife," I said, repeating the old title. "And his partner, and his best friend, and the mother of his children," Daniel added. "And the love of his life," he said, taking my hand in his warm one. "The greatest love of my life," I corrected him, leaning my head on his shoulder. We sat there in comfortable silence, just being together in the moment, peacefully quiet. The sun was warm, the roses were blooming, the children were laughing with pure joy. This was what the grandfather wanted for us all along from the beginning always. Not a fake marriage for show, but a real family built on love. Not a business deal that ended, but a partnership that lasted forever and always. Not a lie that we had to hide, but a truth we could share. Sometimes people asked us how we met and fell in love together initially. Daniel always smiled his secret smile and looked at me with those loving eyes. "It's a long story," he would say, squeezing my hand tight under the table. "But the short version is, I needed her, and she saved me completely." "He's being dramatic," I would laugh, rolling my eyes at him playfully and loving. "The truth is, we saved each other in ways we didn't expect at all." "I was lost in work. She was lost in survival," Daniel would explain more seriously. "Together, we found something better. We found life. We found love. We found home." And that was the truth, the real truth that mattered most of all. Yes, our marriage started as a contract, as a business deal for money. Yes, we lied to a dying man to make him happy in his final days. Yes, it was wrong and complicated and messy and risky from the start. But from that messy beginning, something beautiful grew and bloomed like roses do. Something real, something strong, something worth fighting for in court and in life. Something that changed both of our lives forever in the best way possible always. The end. Late one night, years and years later, when we were old and gray together, Daniel and I sat in that same garden under the stars shining bright above. The children were grown now, with families and children of their own already. The roses still bloomed every year, reminding us of where we came from long ago. "Do you remember the storm?" Daniel asked me, his voice softer now with age. "When you sat in my room and I saw you as a person, not just my boss?" "I remember everything," he said, his aged hand finding mine automatically like always. "That was the night I started to fall, even though I didn't know it." "Me too," I admitted, something I had never said out loud before to him. "That was the night you became Daniel to me, not Mr. Cross anymore." We sat in silence, remembering all the years, all the moments, all the love shared. "If you could go back," Daniel asked, "would you change anything at all?" I thought about the question carefully, honestly, looking at our life together spread before us. The struggles, the lies, the fear, the trial, all the hard parts we went through, but also the love, the laughter, the children, the life we built brick by brick. "No," I said finally, absolutely certain of my answer to him completely and totally. Not a single thing, because it all led me here, to you, to us. Every lie, every mistake, every hard moment was worth it for this ending here. For this life, this love, this family we created together from nothing at all. Daniel smiled, that same smile that still made my heart skip beats even now. "I was going to say the same thing exactly," he said, kissing me so softly. "You were my maid, then my fake wife, then my real wife and forever love. And every version of us, every chapter of our story, I would choose again. I would choose you 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways, always and forever. Because you, Sophia, you are my greatest treasure, my best decision, my whole heart. And there, under the stars and the roses his grandfather had planted long ago, we sat together, two people who started with a lie but built a truth. Two people who took a business deal and turned it into forever-lasting love. Two people who proved that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings create beautiful endings. The end. And so what started as, I was his maid and now I'm his wife, became, I was alone and now I'm loved, became, I was lost and now I'm found, became, I was broken and now I'm whole. Because love, real love, has the power to transform everything it touches completely. Even a fake marriage between a boss and his maid working for money. Even the biggest lie can become the most beautiful truth when watered with care. And that is the real story, the true story, the only story that matters.